PVI is nationally recognized as one of the preeminent stations in news, local programming, and community involvement, with a ratings dominance that spans nearly 4 decades. Please join me as we welcome Bernie Prazenica from Channel 6.
It's great to be with you guys today. I want to tell you just a quick story. This young man here, John Saylor, we go back to 1980. I think it was 1980. We were in Richmond, Virginia together. I was an account executive, which is a schlepper of spots, I guess. You were a Capitol Hill reporter, Capitol being Richmond, Virginia. Somehow we struck up a friendship. I have no idea. I think it was the poker games, right? Tennis? Tennis or poker? We played tennis with the Willie Lanier from the Kansas City Chiefs, who used to do some stuff for the station, and the lieutenant governor of, because John was always about finding some contact, the lieutenant governor of Virginia, who later became the governor of Virginia. Some of the worst tennis you've ever seen in your life, except for me. I actually could play a bit. And we've been friends ever since, so I have John to thank for many things, but for inviting me to come here today. So I'll make this kind of informal. I really don't, there's a lot of subjects that I could speak about. Just to give you a little sense, you've heard the bio, so that's sort of out of the way. 6ABC is an institution in Philadelphia. It's been #1 in news for 40 years, led by Jim Gardner. So it's unprecedented to have that kind of success. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in almost any business, let alone the media business, so we're really fortunate. But beyond that, the whole, whether you talk about Jim or Jim O'Brien or Dave Roberts, or you name the personalities that are on the station, we have a certain position in this market with the community and with the viewers that is just different than I've seen anywhere else. We're kind of considered family by a lot of people, and it's really just an amazing and wonderful position to be in. But we're in a very competitive business. It's never been more competitive than it is today. When I started back with John, we had CBS, NBC, ABC, and I don't even know that there was a Fox back then. PBS, which was not much going on, and a few stations that were referred to as independents. Today, I can't even tell you how many competitors we have, and most of them are through the phone or over the top streamed. It's thousands. So the change in the business is so fast that every day that we show up there's something else to attend to. I see a number of younger folks in the room, and if I asked you, do you watch the 6 o'clock news on any local? You do?
Yeah, I'm a big 6
Awesome.
I'm just taking a picture and sending it.
You're the best. But I know that a number of the other folks here that are that age, you don't get your news that way, right? All right, good. Well, there you go. This is good. You're a friendly crowd, even the young people. But it is where we're having the most difficulty, is reaching younger people. If you look at our numbers, 50 plus, we are the #1 station in the country. Everyone over 50, they love us. They love how we do it. They love our people. But when you start getting younger and younger, it's not that they don't love us. It's just that they find their content, their information, whatever it is, different ways. And it's not, they just don't sit down and watch television like they used to. So we've got to figure out what we do about that. And it's not as simple as just promoting to young people, because this is a sea change in the way people get information. If those of us who are a little older could go back and have the resources of a computer and a phone back when we were young, can you imagine how we would be different? I mean, I did okay at Temple University, but I would have been a star had I had a computer and a phone and had the internet. I wouldn't have had to go to Paley Library and spend days trying to find one piece of material. By the way, I'm very proud of being a Temple graduate, and it's nice to be back, although I don't recognize this building. When I was going to school, Temple Center City was on Walnut Street in the old building that was the Westinghouse station. Anyway, so that's what we deal with every day, and I can't tell you how much time I spend on digital, on social. As much fun as social is for everyone, some days it's the bane of my existence because you never know what someone's going to say. And I walk up to Jim some days, and all Jim has to do is say one thing about the president. He can even be benign. He can say, "What do you think about what President Trump says?" And the next 72 comments are people who think he's taking a side, because that's just where we're at these days in discourse. And he doesn't. Now, we do have some other folks that like to take sides, which is not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be right down the middle. These days, there's a lot of vitriol out there for the media. We see it all the time. We don't get it that much in local television because we don't comment much on what's happening. We just report the news. So, and you won't find many local stations that actually offer commentary. And because of that, we're not looked at as taking on the left or the right. And thank God for that, because I'm not sure that, I mean, you've seen bomb threats and all the things that are going on today. We really don't have to deal with that. So it's a luxury for us. On the programming side, this is probably where one of the most difficult challenges for us. Back again in the old days, you just turn on ABC at 8 o'clock. It was the only chance you had to watch the Connors or whatever it is that you wanted, because you couldn't get it any other way. Now, not only can you DVR it to watch it anytime you want, but you can watch it on Hulu, you can watch it on ABC Stream, you can watch it on Roku, on Apple TV, you can get it all these other ways. And because of that, the audience has dispersed, and we no longer have that one big robust audience that we used to sell a commercial to, and that commercial would be nice and expensive because everyone was watching. Now that thing is all over the place. So we can't monetize the audience like we used to. I don't want you to cry for us. We're still making a couple of bucks. But this is the landscape, and it's only going to get more diverse in terms of how you're going to be able to receive content. So we have to figure it out. That's why we have a lot more young people running around the station these days who are trying different things. If you are a subscriber to any of our social media channels, you'll see us doing all types of odd things all the time, more creative than we've ever been before. Generally not anything to do with the news. It just may be lifestyle stuff. Where's the best pizza place in Center City? What's the hottest trend in cocktails? Whatever it is, the content has changed. We're doing it differently. And it's working. We're engaged. We have, as I think the bio said, we have the #1 digital television.com in the city, and we're competitive with Philly.com, which is the #1 overall. On the social side, we have folks like Cecily Tynan and Adam Joseph, who are the top personalities. They have over 200,000 followers. I don't know about you guys. I have a couple hundred, so 200,000 sounds like a pretty big number. And they communicate. The biggest difference in that form of communicating is that it's like we are today. It's one-to-one. Cecily actually answers almost everybody that sends her a comment or a question. You could never possibly do that through linear television. It's one way. But now we can engage, and there are people that actually feel like they know Cecily and they know Adam. And that's a game changer, because we're human, and the more contact we have with folks like that, the more we feel like we like them and we want to watch them. So we work a lot on that. When I started and John and I were together, we didn't have any of this. Once in a while, a viewer would come up and say, "I saw you last night," and maybe have a conversation. Now you're in constant contact all the time, and it's a different deal. But I've done this for 37 years. I went to Temple for radio, TV, so it's all I ever wanted to do. So I still love it every day. And as long as I can continue to keep the station #1, and very little of it has to do with me, most of it has to do with all the other folks, I'm a happy camper. So I'd love to answer any questions you have or engage any other way or touch on any other topic. Yes, ma'am.
What do you see as the biggest problem upcoming, in going into the future, besides reaching younger people, which you talked about, but what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the station or stations?
I don't know that there is a bigger challenge than reaching the audience of the future, because as we go on, advertisers like 25 to 54 or 18 to 49, even though, as most of us know, you have a lot more money, disposable income, when you start turning 55 and 60, whatever. Your kids are gone, you're making, you've got, but that's not the way they see it. So unless we can start to engage that younger demo, in 10 years, everybody's going to be aged out of that, and it's going to get tougher. So that's something that I deal with and think about every day. The other part of it is the financial part of it. I mean, it's as the station's ability to monetize all these things is more challenged, it gets harder to pay the very talented people what they want to be paid. If you look at how we used to pay most of the on-air talent, they don't get paid what they used to because it's harder to justify it. So those things are probably most difficult.
So as a media outlet, how are you managing and controlling reputational challenges, especially with social media and with a heated political environment? So it's pretty easy for you guys to undergo some heat when somebody says something that might not be well received by polarized audiences. And how do you sort of control that conversation?
It's hard. Most of the time, we try to ignore it, to be honest with you. If you don't engage with someone who's angry or just wants conflict, it just sometimes, and most of the time, it kind of goes away. So we don't, we spend a lot of time with the talent and the people at the station who are engaged in this, talking about how you do this, and it's a case-by-case thing. Sometimes it's someone who's annoyed that their reception in Center City is not great. You can engage with them. Somebody's just, pissed off at the world. Sometimes it's just better to leave it alone. But we talk about it all the time. We take it case by case, and it's not unusual for me to walk in the morning and find out that last night somebody posted something, and we have a bit of a storm brewing, and we have to find a way out of it. I was mentioning to someone before, I think to you, when you work for the Walt Disney Company, you're held to a different standard. So we have to reflect what Walt would have wanted us to be and how he wants us to engage with people. So it's even a little more disciplined.
And sorry. I just have one follow-up, if that's okay. So sorry. Yeah. and on top of that, yeah, you can take my press pass after this. In terms of engaging younger audiences, obviously when you look at how a company like this operates, a lot of the revenue has to come through advertising dollars, right? So when you have a generation that's consistently moving more and more towards quick media and consumption through social channels, I assume that it's becoming challenging to direct that traffic from those age cohorts into where advertisers would want to put your content.
Right.
So how do you plan on sort of integrating that into a revenue model that's sustainable with changing generational preferences and how they consume media?
I don't know.
Okay.
If I could sit here and tell you that. So what he's talking about is that, we can make a social post. And remember, many of these mediums that we're using are controlled by someone else. Google owns it, Facebook owns it, somebody else owns it. So they're in it to make money. They're not really, it's the most beautiful model in the world because they use everybody else's content to bring people to their site to monetize it. We have a hard time monetizing it. So what we try to do is, as you referred to, we try to move them from almost to that model of, if you like what you've seen here, please watch us at 6abc.com or watch us on Action News or watch us on FYI on Saturday night. And that works to a degree, but it's not like a one-to-one kind of flow. So it's a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious, what two qualities do you think like a young
a younger new candidate to do what? To be on the air? A number of things. Number one, we are on television, so you have to be, reasonably attractive. I mean, it's people like to, right? You got to be industrious. You got to have multiple skills. So the days of like someone coming and saying, well, all I do is report, and reporting is great, but now we're like, well, you need to shoot, you need to edit. We refer to them as MMJs, multimedia journalists. Those kind of skills are what we're getting now. I mean, the kids that are coming out of Temple can do all of that stuff. And so if you can get someone like that who can stand up and do their live shot, well, live shots are tough to do when you're a one-man band, but they can do all that stuff. That's a leg up, because we don't have to hire a photographer, and we don't maybe not have to hire an editor. We still have editors and photographers, but so those are the qualities. And then just somebody who is engaging. When I watch our news every day, I just what did I get from that story? Was I engaged? And I'll tell you, too often I don't feel engaged. I feel like it's somebody's just kind of laying it at me. I want that feeling of those are great socks. I want that feeling of I understand why you're live at that scene. Tell me why you're there and why. Help me feel what you're feeling there. I don't get that as much as I'd like. Yes, sir.
I have a minor complaint. I don't know how much it applies in local news. Is it possible for news shows to have sponsors other than prescription drug manufacturers on there?
I wish they bought locally. That's really, you see that in world news and national things. It's possible. They have a lot of money, and they want the demo. That's an indication. I mean, I think you guys all know when you're watching a show and you can see the commercials really tell you who the marketers think is watching it. Yeah, it's yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, you're starting to sort of divide, who you're on all these different networks. And obviously the younger people are watching it in all sorts of different ways. How are you guys approaching sort of dividing the news up in a sense of different segments or relativeness? Like, as you said, you're now doing, focusing on pizza or cocktails. Have you guys?
We're not focusing, but we do that.
Well, adding that in.
Yeah.
Have you guys looked at sort of ways of making like a youth chant,
Yeah, I
there's
think
only so much relative news that younger people really
Yeah.
care about watching. So is there,
Yeah.
is that thing you
Absolutely.
guys think about, or how does that?
All the time. I mean, I hear often from people, we want to see more good news.
Right.
We want to put on more good news, but we have to tell you that there was someone murdered last night. I mean, you can't get to a point where if you want the news, you have to get the news, and you get so. Yeah, we spend a lot of time trying to. That's really what we're doing on the social side and the digital side. But if you have been watching the station, you'll see that there's a brand that we've just developed. It's a national brand for the ABC-owned stations. There's 8 stations that we own. There's a lot of ABC affiliates, but there's only 8 that Walt Disney and ABC own. We're one of them. There's one in New York, Chicago, L.A., Houston, Fresno, and Raleigh-Durham. This brand is called Localish. And it's all of the stations creating the content. One of them is like it's called More in Common, and some of the stories. I invite you to check out Localish. If you go to More in Common, there's some great stories of people who you would never think would find their way to have a relationship. They might have diverse views of immigration, or they might. There's one that's about. A Boy Scout and a young girl who joined the Boy Scouts, and so it's great content, and it's very much millennial driven, and we're getting hundreds of thousands of impressions out of it.
So as a follow-up, do you see news going more micro? Being specific on just trying to sort of micro focus on things versus kind of giving, like you're saying, bad news?
Yes and no. I think on the digital side, the micro, you can already, for those of you who have a sports app, you can just get Eagles and Phillies and your stuff. You don't have to see anything else. And you've been able to do that for years. And you can edit, if you go to our website, you can edit by geography. But my sense is that people still want to know what's going on in the greater area. You've got these neighborhood websites. I don't know if any of you are a member of them. Somebody's cat got hit last night, or someone heard that there was a raccoon. I mean, you get kind of like, all right, I think I need more, than that. Yeah.
So, from a broadcast news perspective, and you mentioned about editing, what enables, in terms of what gets selected versus not selected, making that 30-minute news time frame?
There's a group of producers who meet throughout the day, and they continue to monitor what's going on and make editorial decisions. That's what their job is. They don't always agree. Sorry?
They have criteria like.
Yeah. The criteria is it's what's news. What's the most important thing? What do people need to know? And like if you talk to Jim would say something very different than someone else, because Jim likes to lead with what he feels are the most important national news of the day. Even if it's been reported a number of times, Jim still thinks we should be on record with this. Someone else, if we're going to have a bad rainstorm, the weather is the single most important thing that we do, believe it or not. It's by far the most important thing that we do. So weather often is our lead, even though it makes a lot of the anchors sick to have to lead with weather. People want to know what the weather is. So yeah, that all day long, and they have diverse views, and we have diverse people who weigh in on that, and we still, it's subjective. You might watch 3 stations and see 3 different leads. Often you see the same one, but you might see someone say, like NBC 10, when they have the Eagles on, they'll lead with the Eagles. We would rarely lead with the Eagles unless Carson Wentz broke a leg or there was something. It's just, doesn't rise to that. Yes, sir.
So to address the issues of quality, sustainability, audience, the Lenfest Institute acquired the Inquirer and all its affiliates.
Yeah.
So our first part of the question is, are you all, the regional news agencies, involved in that? Are you being pulled into the collaborative, or do you have another collaborative?
We've been participating in the Lenfest Institute, and so we've had a bunch of meetings about how that manifests itself and what we could do. We've had a partnership with the Inquirer on health costs. Lenfest paid for a database where we could begin to catalog. Like if you had an MRI and you paid $900 for it, and you had one, it was $600. You know how medical costs can be very different. So we worked together on that, and that was partially funded by Lenfest. So we continue to talk about how we can work together, but I think our model for sustainability is a little different than theirs. So I'm not sure where we'll go in the future, but it certainly changed their world. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Who is the court of last resort for programming? Is that you?
The court of last resort. For local programming? Yeah, I guess so.
So at the end of each day or some point during the day, you are contacted and asked, can we run these shows? Or?
Well, that doesn't work that way, and I'm not the final say on Action News. That's a vice president, news director. So editorial, I kind of stay out of because I'm so much more on the business side. So I don't go downstairs and weigh in on what should lead tonight. I weigh in on hiring talent, and I weigh in on larger issues. But so most of the shows that we have on any given day have been determined, and they don't change. I mean, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, which, by the way, are the most popular shows in Philadelphia. Every week, by far, particularly Jeopardy, unreal.
My son is 33 years old, and his first words were Action News.
Is that right?
33 years ago.
God bless you.
He
That's
sang that
God bless
song.
him.
I know this may sound rude or crude. Are you considering maybe upgrading the song?
No, never. Never. We did that once, you know. It's like folklore. I was at the station, I don't know, it was in the 80s, I think, and the general manager decided to he just wanted it kind of livened up. And let's add some strings, let's add some whatever. And we put it on for 2 days and took it off. That is one thing, I will never touch that. We've touched the Open. I don't know if you know the Open. It's got a different feel to it. The way we do it is more modern than it was before, but not the music.
What will be my grandson's first words or actions?
Me too. Me too. Me too. Let me know. We'll come in and do a story.
I'll make it up if you want.
Yeah,
A lot anyway, so-
can't do that. Yes, ma'am.
So I see that Jim Gardner is actually next to us, and everybody's aging, and do you have a succession? I mean, that's a very hard thing, is how are you gonna make it sustain with people that we have known and loved since we were
Yeah.
young? And that is, to me, would feel like a very hard.
I need to retire before Jim does. We're never going to replace Jim. No one can. So I think there's a number of people at the station who can play the role of a 6 and 11 anchor, but they're never going to be Jim. I mean, that's you get one of those in a lifetime, and we'll do the best we can. But I remember I was at the station when Jim O'Brien died, and I remember everybody just kind of predicting the demise of Action News because he was so popular. Dave Roberts became as popular as anyone, and it just moved on. And Gary Papa passed away. Dave left us. Things happen. You just keep moving. It's going to be tough, but I'm confident that the format and who we are, we'll figure it out. But you'd have a real scoop if I told you who I thought was going to be the successor. It's actually John. So, but he would. He would.
He said no.
He said no.
I will say one thing. I remember Jim when he had a little polka dot of gray hair right on the side. I said, 1975 or 6. I said, he's losing it. He's going gray. And now he's finally gray.
He's totally gray. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
With all the uncertainty in this industry, what do you foresee on the acquisition side? Do you see merges? Do you see kind of gobbling up below these local kind of players that are starting to pop up? And how does that factor into your strategy?
Absolutely, more of that. I'm not at that level where we're not going to acquire anybody. So the acquisitions happen. As a matter of fact, we're acquiring Fox, not their television stations, but their film library and Fox Studios and a number of things. And that acquisition's going on right now. So the biggest will survive, and then the other ones, I guess they do what they can. Every day there's another merger of somebody. The Tribune stations, of which PHL is one, were just bought by Nexstar, which is going to have, I think, over 200 stations that they own. That's huge. So yeah, it's going to continue on. And when you do that, as you guys know, as business people, instead of 5 finance managers, now you can have 2. And instead of 50 of this, you can have 22. And that's the name of the game. It's the name of the game in a lot of industries, not just media. But yeah, it's going to continue on. And I don't necessarily think it's a good thing, but I don't think it's a horrible thing either. As long as everybody's satisfied with the content, it'll be okay.
Do most of the on-air talent have agents, and how has that made your business more challenging?
Most do have agents, and we're one of the only stations in the country we don't deal with agents. So what we do is we say to the talent, you can have an agent and you can confer with an agent, but we're not going to deal with your agent, we're going to deal with you. And I mean, that sounds arrogant, but the reality is, as an employer, it's in my best interest to deal directly with that employee and to make that employee happy and to understand what it is that's important to that employee. And it's, I think, important to that employee to understand the opposite of that for the company. When you have someone, and I apologize if there's any agents in the room, they're not bad people, but it's just that intermediary, just doesn't seem to do anything. So so we don't do them. We just don't do them. Are you an agent?
No,
Okay.
some of my friends, no, anyway, so, so you mentioned about being owned by Disney and having standards, made me think about Sinclair Broadcasting Company.
Yeah.
And the influence they have. I don't know, by the way, if there's any local stations.
Nope. Almost.
But what
But
does the industry think
48
about?
used to be Sinclair.
no, there's never been a Sinclair in this town.
I don't know if they
48
know
was
what-
like
what
Kaiser
I'm talking
Broadcasting
about.
or.
You may want to explain, I don't know if people know that, but, and I'm curious of what the industry thinks about where an owner of, I don't know how many stations they own. and
Hundreds.
trying to increase,
Yeah.
has strong influence of what they actually say.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, Sinclair is just kind of the dark sheep of the media world. First of all, they're a conservative bunch, and so that in a liberal media world, I mean, we are liberal. There's no hiding from that unless you're Fox News, I guess. They've had relationships with the Trump administration. They have been the poster child for consolidation and then trying to do things that are viewed by many people as not in the best interest of the community or the employees. I guess.
What they say.
I guess their most famous faux pas is they ask each station to do an editorial based on the editorial thoughts of the management of Sinclair. And they all run the same editorial, basically. And so that's something that the government and the FCC, which still regulate us, doesn't look fondly on. They look fondly on diverse opinion, not singular opinion that's dictated from a central location. So, you know what? But every business, every industry has. It takes a lot of folks to make it all up, and I think they're learning as time goes on. I wouldn't want to work for them myself, but it is what it is. We'll see where it goes.
I see you're starting, some of the local stations are starting to put news shows on at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yes,
Do those actually do well? I mean,
do well. I don't know about that's a high bar. You know what? I mean, we are a competitive bunch. So if you start one at 4, I'll start one at 4. They start one at 3:30. I'll probably start one at 3:30. It's a little goofy. But I also remember the days when I started the station, and even when we were in Richmond, we only did cut-ins in Good Morning America. We didn't have a 6 a.m. news.
Oh, just about when I left.
Did you then? Well, we didn't have one, and I remember advertisers and some of the sales folks saying, no one's going to buy 6 a.m. 6 a.m. is the most sought-after day part right now. People will pay the highest per capita, if you will, rates for that show.
I recall the morning news in the newsroom and having salespeople from the station walk behind me and go like this.
Yeah,
And I think you were one
I
of
did
them.
that, yeah.
And I said, what was that?
What are the other types of things that advertisers buy on news shows other than the commercial? Are there other things that you co-sponsor? Are there things that
Yeah.
advertisers,
Yeah, Art of Aging is one of those. We have a lot of content-related ones. A lot have to do with health, so you get Independence Blue Cross who would be interested in those things. We offer, but we disclose all of those. You should be able to see when you're watching. You will not see content that it's paid and it just gets slipped in.
You're not having like a Coca-Cola can in front of Jim Gardner? No. Why not?
No, you do that.
Do that
It's a good idea, though.
Product placement.
Yeah, so, yeah, we don't really do product placement, but we definitely will go out and sell people content that we think, number one, they would sponsor, but also that we think our viewers would respond to. We really don't want to put stuff on that gets paid for, but no one wants to watch. That's, kind of a formula for going down the drain. But we do a lot of it. And I don't know if you guys watched the Thanksgiving Day Parade. That's our parade, lock, stock, and barrel. I mean, nobody does, the city doesn't put that on, we put it on. We have a full staff for balloons and floats and bands, and every bit of that parade is sold to somebody. So we found new creative ways that didn't exist in the future, and we'll find new ones going down the pike.
Speaking of the future, I'm thinking of, my question really has to do with AI, artificial intelligence. So I'm imagining a movie where it shows either hologram or a good life-looking robot, I guess you call it,
Yeah.
that really gives the news. I mean, because all it is.
Max Headroom.
Yeah.
Remember that? No, I don't.
Is there ever thought about trying to really project into the future as to what it might be for broadcast?
Yeah, I don't know that we're ever going to get to a day when we have, a Max Headroom up there given the news. We do have augmented reality. If you watch our weather, you see, sometimes we have a little dog on the set. It's not a real dog, it's augmented reality, But on the artificial intelligence side, without a doubt, there are companies right now that produce news stories that I bet you right now, if you read one, you wouldn't know the difference. And it's basically sourced by information that exists in the sphere of the internet and very accurately puts it together in a story. You wouldn't know the difference.
In the print version?
Well, yeah. There's really not audio, video, but you could take that and add B-roll to it and have a story. Absolutely, and that's there's going to be more and more of that. Yes.
I think as someone who worked at Channel 10 and Channel 3,
Uh-oh.
and 6, I think that and so we were always the second and third place stations. I think that the success of Channel 6 is that everybody knows they're showing up for all this stuff, all these small things. So all those people whose kids were at that fair or whose whatever run home to watch Channel 6. So I think Channel 6 in this marketplace has been the best about building community. Like really, I mean, we said that, but we didn't really do it. But Channel 6 really consistently does. And so I think that that's how to stay engaged because all those people now are going to watch. And that's why Channel 6 is the station.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Last one.
So is there any kind of push within the industry to kind of put the kibosh on stations that put news in their name when they're, more entertainment and not really news?
No. It's again, it's a subjective kind of thing. So as she just mentioned, I mean, we are a station that if someone turns 102, we'll be there with a camera. Now, there's probably a group of people that could care less that somebody turned 102. We think it's noteworthy, but we also do it for a community reason. If you light the Christmas tree at City Hall and you put that in the news, is it news or is it whatever? We do tons of research. We spend a lot of money on research, and people these days want more of this variety. They don't want just the hard news. So if you look around, it's really hard to find someone that just does hard news because it just doesn't sustain itself. So we try to find a mix. That A block, that first 8 minutes of every newscast is usually the news of the day, where you gotta know about it. And then after that, we start to drift. We start to make decisions about this is interesting, this is entertaining, this is something that is unique. All those things. So you're going to see more of that, and it may not make you happy, but you can curate your news if you go online, and you can just get the hard stuff. So anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Rabbi, thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.